What's going on, pre-Chiro students? Another meaningful conversation. We're going to go deep today. We're having conversation with Ricardo Flores, who has just finished up the chiropractic program that he enrolled and immersed himself into for years and is now being unleashed into society, released, shall we say. So this is a really key moment in your chiropractic development, and the pathway that you take really culminates in this moment in regards to your chiropractic education. So Ricardo, I want to thank you for not only sharing with the students today, but also being vulnerable and sharing where you're coming from, what you're going through, so that you may make it a little bit easier for the next generation to be woke and aware of the challenges and the different little things that are not really discussed and talked about, but become very relevant to you in this moment. So can we just get started by you introducing yourself, sharing what you were up to before chiropractic school and what attracted you to becoming a chiropractor?
100%. Before that, I just want to thank you so much for reaching out. It means a lot to me. I've seen a lot of the podcasts that you guys have done. Awesome stuff. I love the concept. The objective is incredible. I think students need to know about what they're going to get into whenever they get into school. A little about me. Let's see. I started off super into like the medical side. In undergrad, I actually was doing a biology and chemistry double major. And then I kind of ended up with me just, getting really into the sciences and all those things. And I always knew I wanted to be some sort of healthcare professional. I just didn't know what. And I dabbled in a lot of different things, which is pretty awesome because I got to meet, medical students, pharmacy students, all those things. But chiropractic was never like anywhere in my periphery. It was so hilarious. What's funny is I didn't even consider it until like after my master's. I got a master's after my undergrad for 4 years, did a 2-year master's in research and biotechnology. So I love research stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, it was so funny because that's when I first had my chiropractic experience. A ton of low back pain. I used to be super into lifting, super heavy powerlifting stuff, and I had an injury at one point, and it was the most odd thing. Like it came out of nowhere, honestly, and nothing was working. Ibuprofen, stretching, everything. Like I tried everything, physiotherapy, and finally, my mom was just like, "Well, there's a chiropractor just like 10 minutes away." They live in Yuma, Arizona, by the way. If you ever been to Yuma, Arizona, it's like the most southwest part of Arizona, and it's like 10 minutes away from the border. Like it's something else. It's like 310 to Yuma straight up like desert. You go. I was there visiting them, and she's like, "Well, there's a chiropractor down the street. Let's go check him out." I still remember the guy's name, Dr. Madrid. Awesome guy. He was from Palmer. I hadn't seen him since. One adjustment, he like was able to relieve my pain completely. And and what's so funny is I didn't even think of chiropractic as a profession of like me like going to that profession. Even then, I was just like, "Oh wow, chiropractic's cool." That's all. That's the only thought that came in my mind. And then as I approached my like the end of my master's, I realized that biotech wasn't really like, and research wasn't something I really wanted to do in the long run, at least in that field. So that's when I started reaching out to one of my friends who was in chiropractic school already at Parker, and I love him to death. I just did his wedding a little while back, and he started talking about chiropractic, and he's also into research and all that stuff. And I was like, this guy's kind of smart. Like, it's not just like holistic, like, witch doctor stuff, right? That's all you hear about chiropractic when you're on the outside. So I was like, this is kind of interesting. So after like long talks with him, finally I was just like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I checked it out more, checked out the school. I was like, all right, cool. Let's go with it. Like, I had a good feeling. I was like, all right, just had a lot of faith and ended up at Parker. And just finished up in December, man. It had been quite a ride since then.
Yeah, and you mentioned you entered on faith, and I think that that is far too common of the story that people don't really know why they're going to chiropractic school. They have no
Mm-hmm.
clarity of what chiropractic is in its wide spectrum of expressions. They just know that I had this experience at the chiropractor. I don't know what I want to do, but this seems like a great way for me to help people. So I'm going to just enter into this pathway kind of on faith that it feels good,
Mhm.
feels like a right thing. But can you get into depth on what made your experience at chiropractic school so special?
Yes. So actually, what I'll add on to what you just said. It's kind of funny because the faith thing, because there is literally, I think I read a stat the other day that said like around 80%, like around 70 to 80% of new chiropractic students have not experienced an actual osseous adjustment before they get into school, which is crazy. And I had only experienced one before that. So that's just to add on to that, a lot of faith in this work, which is awesome. Um, but yes, so my experience at Parker was a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, a lot of celebrations. So first couple of tries, I was literally into everything. I went to nutrition club, neuro club. I went to a couple of rehab stuff because Parker is just like Parker. The first few tries, like from try 1 to 4, they're like, "Hey, this is an environment where you can learn like everything you want, mechanistic, vitalistic, whatever you want in Parker." And that was very attractive in those first few tries. So I literally was like, I have an opportunity. There's a bunch of clubs here, awesome student leaders. Like, why not get like super just involved? I think at one point in tries 2 and 3, I was going to around 5 or 6 clubs like consistently, like every week, like ICPA, pediatrics. I mean, there was like some business clubs I would go to. It was an awesome experience just learning from each and every club. And it wasn't until around, I want to say it was like try 2, I started like learning how to adjust. Because in try 1, I was like kind of like I was going through the motions. I didn't think the school was like super tough like academically. So at that point, I was just like, well, like I'll try. I'll just kind of hang around, like see how I feel. Try 1, didn't do a lot of like adjusting stuff. And then try 2, I was like, okay, this is chiropractic. I need to get my hands, warm, nice and hot. I need to get like start to learn about this craft. So that's when I started immersing myself into going to some seminars. My first seminar was Mark Charette's seminar, which is like super basic, fundamental. Like, here's a lumbar, boom, you adjust it. Here's the wrist, boom, you adjust it. And it was just like, it was a lot of fun. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I got a little bit of swagger after that seminar. Me and a bunch of buddies would start meeting up almost like 2 3 times a week, sometimes even 4 times a week after school, and we would be like just practicing on each other for like 2 3 hours like consistently. And it
I
was
just
like
want to share a really quick side tangent.
mhm,
My experience of going to a Mark Charette seminar is that he does a great job of introducing the neurology, introducing
mhm,
chiropractic's impact through the adjustment, but then he does these little moments where it's like, okay, let's train on this one skill. Let's practice it, practice it, practice it, and that repetition. And he's like, okay, do it in a minute, do it in 30 seconds, do it in
mhm.
10 seconds, and he gets you out of your head. The less time you have, the less time you can really think of what you're doing, and you're just starting to go through the motions of what it feels like to move a joint through its natural biomechanical motion. So I just want to shout out Dr. Charette. That was something that I did after chiropractic school when I was just doing a seminar on the weekend, as I usually do, just to keep
Mhm.
learning, keep growing. But anyway, continue on. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. He sets forth a great intention. He just like goes away with it. I love that seminar. It was very fundamental, very rudimentary. It was great. But yeah, in try 2, we were just getting together like a bunch of buddies of mine, and we would just be learning how to adjust. Like, and and I don't like highly suggest people do this all the time, but like what we would do was just like we would just watch the bigs in the profession like try out moves, and we're like, oh, this is how this guy adjusts an atlas. So we would try it. And then we're like, oh, this guy did this on the thoracic. We'll try it. And so we literally would just mess around, try stuff out. And through that creative energy, we got to getting our own kind of signature adjustment, getting our own kind of, I guess, flow. And that kind of culminated into going to more seminars and try 2, try 3. And try 3 was like a very big moment for me because going into school, I had a very mechanistic view And it was kind of funny because one of my really, really good like best friends in school, John Caruso, he used to sit behind me in class, and a lot of the guys in the pre-chiro sphere probably know him. Great, amazing mentor, humongous heart. He was like pretty vitalistic coming in after he like the first like chiropractic philosophy class. He just like it just clicked for him, and I was like always sitting in front of him, just like no, this is dumb. This is vitalism, like whole body stuff. No, that doesn't make sense. Super, inductive reductionist thinking, and it was so funny because we'd have these like long conversations, and we would end up like saying the same things, like philosophical conversations. We'd end up saying the same thing about what we think chiropractic is, and I would eventually always wind up saying like, okay, there is something going on in this body, right? It is self-healing. There's no disregarding that, and I would get super frustrated, but I had to agree with him in some ways. So try 2 and try 3. That's when that's when it finally clicked for me. And one of the guys that helped me through that was actually Brett Jones. He's I owe a lot to him. Incredible guy. I had other mentors too. David Bynum was actually another, like mentor, like when I was in my younger stages, like awesome guy. Brett Jones, like I haven't followed his work since then as much, but this one seminar I went to called The Space Between and Try 3. It was Try 3. It just like he put a lot of these big concepts for me together, and he kind of put it in a little package, wrapped it up in a bow, gave it to me, and I was like, okay, this finally makes sense. And so that like I accepted all that and took all my knowledge from previous years of learning and just kind of ran away with it. Try 4, super awesome. Started just learning a lot more about adjusting, a lot more about the body holistically, vitalistically, and ended up going to a mission trip in Try 5, and like between Try 4 and Try 5. And after that, like you gain some sort of like certainty and some sort of confidence, not only in like what chiropractic, like how you do chiropractic and how efficient you can do chiropractic, but also what chiropractic can do for people that have never experienced chiropractic before in their lives. And so that was very, very gratifying. And I would say that was like one of the peak moments in my chiropractic experience at Parker. And sure, I had like some ups and downs and stuff. One of the awesome other bigger things is like I always recommend students to do in school, like kind of like I said, find a group, click with them, and just learn as much as you can, get immersed in everything. I think not just like clicking and getting together with people, but also standing for something, standing for even if you don't agree with someone, have a reason for standing for that reason. So it's like your philosophical construct, you understanding why you're standing there. If you want to do something in your office potentially one day, why are you doing those things? So I'm very big into understanding your why. We always talk about that in school, right? Everyone's always like, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? I just was like, this is my why, and I'm going to run away with it. And a lot of people, you ask them, you're like, what's your why? And they're like, yeah, it's this. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's cool. I love that. But they get lost within like, okay, this is your why. This is how you express it. Now, how is it you're going to interact with others efficiently through that expression, right? So it's like it's going from small up, it's going from micro to macro, right, and back down again. So it's like we are an interrelational profession. In the end, we all have to be as one. So I was very big into talking to other people about their chiropractic experiences. I still am. I'm very fascinated about just talking to different people's views on the world, mycology, psychology, sociology, like all the ologies. I love that stuff, and I learn it to absorb it, take it all in, and be able to look at it through a chiropractic lens, not a medical lens, not a psychological lens, not an outside in lens, but an inside out lens. And I think that's the most important thing, because people like going to Parker, you go to a very mixer school, like you call it like it is, like and straight school, mixed school, whatever it is, it's school. They have an agenda, okay, and that's fine. Those people have a an academic construct for you to take, and you just have to run away with it. It is what it is. So what you can do is absorb the therapy stuff, the modality stuff, the awesome adjusting stuff, the philosophical stuff you can learn at school, the science stuff. Take it all in, and instead of learning it through a medical lens, absorb it through a chiropractic lens, express it through a chiropractic lens, and see what comes out on the other end. So that was the biggest thing I did in school, was taking all these subjects in, absorbing it, and then seeing what comes out on the other side chiropractically. Yeah, so I know I've been ranting for a little bit. I hope that kind of makes a little bit of a sense.
Yeah, no, I think I want to like grab on to what you're talking about, of knowing what your why is, knowing what means the most to you, what's most important to you, knowing how chiropractic is really all about expressing yourself. And you have to come up with a clear explanation or a way of expressing that why to others. I think that that's a great little exercise for chiropractic students to practice. Secondarily speaking, seeing everything as being interconnected, seeing us as all being interconnected, not only within the context of the chiropractic student culture and you standing for something so that you can help others in that culture, bring everybody around you up. I think that it's really important for chiropractic students or pre-chiropractic students to recognize you can start practicing right now before chiropractic school, getting clear on what's important to you. It doesn't have to be chiropractic, but recognize that to make it chiropractic, you have to learn how to express it yourself. And that's the big challenge that I'm giving to students in pre-chiro, is how would you contextualize chiropractic or sports or your love for dogs or your love for science and research? Like, why is that so important to you, and how can you communicate that to others? Because like you said, being a chiropractor, it is interrelational. You have to be able to relate to somebody with maybe a foreign concept in a familiar way. So I want to thank you for bringing those concepts up. We just had Lisa Tack say that she said that she's glad that you're in the profession, Ricardo, and she had the same feeling when she met John Caruso in Haiti. So
nice. Yes. Thank you, Lisa. She's awesome. She's doing really big things in her social media pages. Yeah, John Caruso is awesome. I love that man so much. But yeah, the biggest, and then I think, yeah, looking at it through the chiropractic lens, going off of that, and then being able to communicate it beautifully so that anyone off the street, a layman, can understand it. And I think the biggest thing that I did for that is I kind of, and I learned that art kind of at the end of my tenure there at school, like around try 7 all the way to try 10. Parker has we go by tries, and there's 10 tries. So try 7, you're kind of at the end of your academic, and you're going into your clinical stuff. You're seeing patients in try 8 from try 10. And so try 7, I really was immersed into the communication, knowing the philosophical stuff, obviously diving deep into the green books, because I love the philosophy of chiropractic, and not just like digesting that and being able to communicate that efficiently. And that is an art in itself. And it had been very tough since then. I'm still learning how to do it better and better and better each and every day. But the biggest thing that I did with that was I actually was able to help. We got into a group of us, a group of guys. And I'm sure you heard of us, the Delta Sigma Chi, Doctors of Straight Chiropractic. And we actually helped resurrect the Mu Dallas chapter there. And Alex DeFrancisco, Zach Thompson, Quan Nguyen, John Caruso, myself, and then Blake Lundy all got together, all these awesome guys, just loving chiropractic, getting together, not just adjusting, but being able to communicate, absorb the philosophy, seeing how we stand together in this profession with all 3 tenures, which is philosophy, science, and art. And then finally, just getting all this together and just forming this fraternity on campus, and then finally being a light there on campus, not just for philosophy, but for philosophy, science, and art, teaching chiropractic, and getting students to talk, getting students to communicate, because that's the most important thing. We come out of school and we don't know how to talk chiropractic. And I'm not just talking about this is universal intelligence. This is the major premise. Universal intelligence and automatic thinking, solves properties and actions, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what is chiropractic? what do we do? How do we do it? Why is it we do the things we do? And why don't we, and that, why don't we do the things that we don't do? So it's very, very like, like bare bones, you know, and, but it takes a long time to get to these bare bones, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I'm a huge advocate of like joining clubs that are all about communication. On campus, we had chiropractic caffeine, and that's like a derivative of what um, Brad Galacki does in his work in Life West. And they literally just like, they do role plays the entire time at club. We're like, all right, I'm patient. I'm 6 years old. I'm with my mom. I'm with my mom. Like, and my mom's in pain. Like, how do you navigate that situation? So it's like you have to be on your like on it. You know, it's not just like throwing out philosophical stuff. It's like, okay, like what do you do as a chiropractor? So
Mm-hmm.
communication is big, humongous.
Mm-hmm. What are some things that you're working on right now? You just graduated. What's most important to you right now?
Yes, right now it is. I just moved down to Austin, Texas. So Parker's in Dallas. Moved down to Austin, Texas, about 3 hours away, and currently focusing on practice building. So it's pretty exciting. It's a whole different like kind of a limbo stage where you're kind of it almost feels like you're incubating really because you're like you're forming all these ideas or writing stuff down. Like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And you're talking to like you're starting to talk to contractors, like landlords, banks, and all these things. You're just like it's almost like a little overwhelming, but it's also super exciting. Just got done with a logo recently, so that's pretty exciting. Look out for that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'll say it's gratifying, scary, and super exciting, all wrapped up into one. It's like, okay, you were walking the walk at school, and now you have to literally like, all right, you were saying it back in school, like you were saying that like you have to be certain, have authority, have love, and have intention, and now shoot, now you actually have to do it because like guess what? Now it's you. Now it's just you, and like yes, there's chiropractors around you, and I've actually put forth the intention of like visiting chiropractors around the area, and they're awesome. There's so many awesome ones here in Austin, and so my intention is to visit all the ones that are around my area that I think really like that I think I really vibe with, and just talk to them, you know, and hang out with them and see what they think about not just the area and business, but about just chiropractic also. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now. It's this awesome, fun limbo stage where you're just like, it's just creative energy and you're just trying to, you're going to like figure out how you're going to like birth this awesome, awesome thing that you have right here. You just have to have the actual material in front of you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been super exciting, super gratifying. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, just to share my story, when I graduated, first I moved to an island off the coast of Honduras just to get my experience out in internationally in a new environment. I really just wanted to scuba dive because I've been sitting for years. I wanted to get out of gravity, and so I literally just went out there and I'd walk the streets with my chiropractic table in my hand and offer adjustments to people. That is one way to really humble yourself and to
Yeah.
start to build value for chiropractic by trading, housing. I traded housing, I traded food, I traded a place to practice out of for chiropractic care. And that was really cool because when I came back to the US, I started walking the streets, not with my table in hand, but I'd bring my table different places and just set up and be feeling comfortable being in a completely sort of random environment where here I am as a chiropractor just wanting to connect. And I think that you traveling around to different chiropractors, that's a great place to start because you find people that are in alignment with your values, but then transition to literally just stepping foot in a random environment where there's going to be some foot traffic and just finding people to connect with and let them know that you're available, that your presence is there, and that if they ever need to talk to somebody, if they ever need to connect, that you're available. And I think that that will build organically. That was how I did it for about 3 or 4 months before I actually found a space that matched
Nice.
what I was looking for. which was about 650 square feet
Nice.
and a low overhead, very simple. And that was about 8 or 9 years ago. And we haven't actually left that space because we realized that 650, 700 square feet is enough to run a full practice. Anyway, just putting that out there. Also, we get hung up on a logo, but really we need brand photography. We need these video discussions about these topics that are so crucial. So can we just kind of create some content for you right now where you kind of introduce yourself to the community. You share a little bit about the practice that the services that you're offering, the practice that you've built and that you've designed, and what populations that you're really aiming to help and support.
Yeah, sure. So my practice is going to really focus on upper cervical. And I think upper cervical is key in whatever you want to do in your practice, whether it be full spine diversified, Gonstead, activator, TRT, MCT, whatever technique. Please check the upper cervical spine because that's where the spinal cord is the thickest. That's where all of the brain transfers into that energy and flows through that spinal cord and into the rest of the body. All the nerves bundle up through there. So make sure you know how to clear the upper cervical, at least have some way to do it. So I love upper cervical work. I'm going to do a lot of that in my practice. And I'm not just talking like one kind, I'm talking like all of it. Like I love the Blair, I love the Nuka, I love the knee chest, I love, straight HIO toggle. I love all that stuff. So it's something that I was shown a lot in the last few tries, and I just have to do it. Just thought and it clicked. But I will say like the full spine stuff is super, super valuable because I do believe that misalignments in the rest of the spinal column do cause undue tension throughout the entire, like meningeal torsion throughout the entire spine. And if you clear those over time, after you clear the upper cervicals, it can be very, very beneficial for any patient, and especially for complex ones. So that's typically what I'm going to focus on in my office. Right now, we're looking for a space between 700 to about 1,200 square foot. We found one that's potential. It's a little larger than 1,200. So we might have to figure something around that. But 1,200 is around pretty good. I would like to do X-ray. Definitely would like to do X-ray, especially with upper cervical work. I don't think it's going to be something I'm going to have right away, but that potentially have it like off the bat would be amazing. And then, man, my avatar is incredible. I vibe a lot with women that are like between like late 20s to early 30s up to like 35. And not just because like they're essentially the heads of health in their house, right? So the husband's not going to go off and be like, oh shoot, I need to see the chiropractor because my health is declining, right? It's always going to be the woman that's going to take health authority in the household. So if you talk to them and have them in the office, you're golden. You have the entire family. And I'm a huge advocate of like I love babies. I love the elderly. Like I love everyone in between, all shapes and sizes. I want to see them all. But I think the people that I primarily vibe with the most are the ladies between like 25 to like early 30s. And I think the reason for that is because like they just at that point they just have this huge transition into like motherhood, right? And it's very, very cool to see that whole like inception from like caring about self to caring about like everyone around them. I think that's super beautiful. And so I have really great conversations with ladies at that age. But man, I want to see all the kiddos. I want to see like all the guys. Like I'm very much like I very much absorb myself and transform myself into the person that's right in front of me. So if a guy comes in, I'm in my chiropractic career, like back in school, whenever I'd have like someone in clinic that was like younger, like a teen, obviously like you vibe with them, you start hanging out, you start calling them man, bro, whatever, like you have to connect with them in some way, then like when little ladies come in, you're just like, oh yeah, how's it going, Lisa? How's it going? Or like, or Linda, or like they're always named Lisa, Linda, or Melinda, or something like that, and you're connecting with them, but you have to get in this space of love, certainty, and authority. You have to sit down and really think like, this person is my family. This person is my mom, my dad, my brothers. Like, and that's where the magic happens with chiropractic. That's where the heart opens up. We talk about head, heart, hands, right? That's where it comes from, above, down, inside out. But the huge generator throughout is through the heart, transmitting, connecting with him. So that's when the real chiropractic magic happens. So, but that's like my avatar for my practice. And it's super exciting. I think we're slated to late spring, early summer. That's my timeline for now. So yeah, super stoked, man. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I wish you the best. It sounds like it's going to be a great experience. But keep your overhead low. You could always transition to a bigger space. You can always, evolve to that bigger space. But definitely make sure you don't bite off too much too early. Just saying.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, I'm all about like I'm all about the, like, keep overhead low. I think the 650, especially if you're like a solo practitioner, like 650, like, 850 range is phenomenal, especially if you're not going to have an x-ray. It is phenomenal. You save so much money, and you can see like a good number of patients. Like, if you want to see patients, like, even if you see like, 10 patients a day, guess what? You're still keeping overhead low. You don't have to worry about paying the bills, and you can just serve through your heart. And it's awesome. I think for me, I would like to see, I think perhaps like 1,200 would be ideal. Just because, like, I also have a girlfriend who's also in school right now, and she's in Tri-6. Love the woman to death, and we've been talking about, like, opening up together. So whenever she transitions out of school, which is going to be another year and a half or so, hopefully, like, if I would like to have maybe a bigger space just to have her, in there. And she's super into. I want high volume. Like, I love seeing patients. I love, like, everyone so much, but I love in-depth conversations like this. And it's hard to get into in-depth conversations like this when you're like having the hands hot. And I love having the hands hot. So it's just like, I love, like, all right, I'll see you next time, whatever, like, take a few minutes or whatever, move on to the next patient. I just love to see people. But she's more focused on AK, NET, super, like, focused on clearing the subluxations, but also focused on nutrition and maybe a little rehab and stuff. And it's just like, wonderful. If we can do it all in one space, that could be cool. That could be very ideal. And so it's opened up a lot of my periphery, a lot of my environment to kind of figure out what I'm going to do with that space. And maybe a little bit larger would be great, So that's like kind of figuring out, like, what you're going to do, what you love, what you don't love. And that goes back to talking about your why, right? So it's exciting. It's super great, man.
Any final message to that student who's maybe studying research, or that student who's in undergrad and wants to go into healthcare, that can maybe shine a light or bring more clarity to them on what this path could look like, that's different from other paths, or how they could leverage their research skills or their love for research and become a chiropractor and still have the ability to do research if they want to?
100%. I'm glad you talked about the research, because my practice is I really focus on objective findings. I'm talking about HRV and SCMG thermography, all those things, and students. That's all all it does is, like, gives us a window into how the nervous system is functioning. That's all those tools do. And I think I highly suggest people use at least one of those in their offices. Not because chiropractic needs some sort of validation or whatever, but I really think it's a great objective to just it's great patient education. Like, to me, I'm all about educating, communicating, education, communication. That's how you get the patient across. Like, that's how you get that message across to that patient. It's just education. So it's all knowledge is good knowledge. You just have to know how to use it. So if you are interested in learning more about chiropractic research, I suggest this is Rob Sinnott's book. So when I have it right here, it's a textbook of human adaptability. Super, super great book. It's just got literally hundreds of articles and summaries of articles talking about different metrics of objective findings for the subluxation. It's incredible. It's so nice. And And it's crazy because we are in the precipice of an incredible time here. Like technology is just getting more and more advanced, and I'm telling you right now, it's going to be so quick and efficient in just the next 5-10 years that you should just pick it up now, because it's going to be so much easier for you to use it in your office. So Textbook of Human Adaptability by Rob Sinnott. It's an incredible book. And do not, and the biggest thing with like research is don't become dogmatic. And with anything you do not become closed-minded once you like hold on to an idea. Do not do that. Be open-minded. Look into different things. Look into this book talks about pupillary like reflexes. Like, how do you measure that? And before that book, I didn't think to even like look into that. And it's just like and not just like the research stuff, but don't become so dogmatic in the research that you don't see like the actual effects going on with the patient, right? Because in the end, it's like what the patient actually sees. Like, yes, like the objective findings are super important, but the patient like eyes wide open shows like more expression of life. Isn't that what's more important? Of course it is. Of course it is, 100%. But it's a good balance. It's a good balance of both, right? We're a trinity: philosophy, science, and art. So make sure that they're all balanced up. So that's my biggest thing for people that want to get into the research. I myself want to do case studies in my office one day, just because like I think the profession needs it. The COVID stuff coming up, people are denying immune function and all these things. It's like, how incredible would it be if only 100 chiropractors, just 100 in the entire nation, got together and pumped out 10 papers in like a year? How incredible would that be? Like, that is evidence. I don't care what anyone says. You put that into a journal, and there's tens of thousands of case studies saying chiropractic helps with this. Put it out there, and not about validation, but just showing the power of chiropractic for patient education, for public education. It would be incredible, phenomenal. So I really want to take it upon myself to do that for not just for my patients or for my community, but for the profession and itself. So and finally, just get into organizations, get plugged into organizations. ICA is a good one to get into. IFCO is a good one to get into as well. And just be super be a sponge. Just be a sponge. Like, just absorb everything. Take it, look at it through a chiropractic lens, and see if it's going to function for you. It's just super vital.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you taking the time, sharing your insights. There's so much more that I'm sure you could share with students, but at this point, you touched on a number of things that students can take and go and explore more for themselves. And if you're a pre-chiro student out there and you want to reach Ricardo, we'll definitely post a link to connect with him. And we're just going to keep evolving the ecosystem, or keep building the infrastructure for prospective students. That's what these conversations are about. You touched on a number of things nobody's really talked about. You mentioned NET, AK. We haven't really had any spotlight shined on that. Upper cervical, you mentioned all the different upper cervical approaches that people can explore. We have had some conversations with some upper cervical specific chiropractors, but there's definitely a lot more to explore in there. And yeah, I appreciate your passion, and I wish you the best with anything with practice. If you need to connect with me, I'm here for you. Definitely feel like I have a lot of resources to share. So let's just keep in communication.
Love it, man. Hey, before we leave, let me read one passage from one of my favorite chapters of Bigness of the Fellow Within. Hey, if you're a chiropractic student and you just want to get like super into philosophy, please get this book. The first 100 pages are straight fire. So I'm sure you know this one. Chapter 11, The Inner Power Speaks. And it's so funny because it's number 33, that page right there. We chiropractors work with the subtle substance of the soul. We release the prison impulse, the tiny rivulet of force that emanates from the mind and flows over the nerves to the cells and stirs them into life. We deal with the magic power that transforms common food into living, loving, thinking clay that robes the earth with beauty and hues and scents the flowers with the glory of the air. In the dim, dark, distant long ago, when the sun first bowed to the morning star, this power spoke, and there was life. It quickened the slime of the sea and the dust of the earth. and drove the cell to union with its fellows in countless living forms. Through eons of time, it finned the fish and winged the bird and fanged the beast. Endlessly it worked, evolving its forms until it produced the crowning glory of them all. With tireless energy, it blows the bubble of each individual life and then silently, relentlessly dissolves the form and absorbs the spirit into life, in the spirit into itself again. And yet you ask, can chiropractic cure appendicitis or the flu? Have you more faith in a knife or a spoonful of venison than in the innate power that animates the internal living world? So, fire, get that book.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you just give a quick 20-second translation as to what that sort of speaks to about chiropractic and what that speaks to from your perspective?
Mm-hmm. Chiropractic is the first profession. No, we are the first profession that recognizes the efficiency of adjusting the cervix and the spinal column in order to have perfect expression of life above, down, inside out. Above, down, inside out simply means that there is a vital force within. We recognize it. We see its functions. We see how it organizes and coordinates everything together. And through its expression, we connect this vital force with everything in the body. That's what we call it. And whenever it's not connected, it's what's called incoordination. So through incoordination, we observe it, we see its effects, we call that a subluxation. We adjust when needed, and guess what? We have perfect connection between brain and body, vital force to the rest of the organs. And that is how you express life fully. That is chiropractic, and chiropractic does that efficiently, abundantly, and if you do it with certainty, it can be the most effective way to transform someone's life.
That's dope. I mean, I think that if people heard that message coming from different celebrities, from people that they trusted, that they looked up to, we would have a lot more people want to become chiropractors. I really just, honestly, if we just told the truth about chiropractic and we got people who had been, been in offices, gotten adjusted, experienced chiropractic, also started to understand what chiropractic was and how it was different, and then started to share it publicly. Some influencers would really shift the consciousness of the younger generations to not be so centered on, I'm going to go study medicine, but I'm going to I'm really excited to become a chiropractor one day. I mean,
100%, man. I love it.